What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are back in Battlefront 2. It's been a very long time. I think it's been about a year since I last played this. So in today's video, we're just going to be ranking every single starfighter that is in the game. Now for this, we're going to be counting vehicles such as the Naboo starfighter, which are actually called starfighters. But we are not going to be ranking the Snowspeeder on this list because it is not a starfighter despite being an aerial vehicle. Now, also for this video, I'm not going to be counting every single starfighter because this video would go on forever, so instead we're going to be combining vehicles such as the First Order and Imperial TIE Fighters. Now, Criterion did a pretty good job of balancing out every vehicle in Battlefront 2, so it's pretty hard to actually determine which one is the worst. But I've put the TIE Special Forces Interceptor for the First Order in this position. This is because interceptors are supposed to be fast, maneuverable, and have a high fire rate, and I find that this starfighter simply does not live up to any of those expectations. It's pretty slow and clunky, and the fire rate isn't enough to really make it good in any situation. Now, next up, coming in as the second worst starfighter in all of Battlefront 2, we have the TIE Interceptor. Not starting off good for the interceptors. Now, this one has a decent fire rate, but it's still really slow and doesn't feel like a true interceptor. And the rebel vehicles, such as Y-Wings, X-Wings, and A-Wings, all outplay it in most situations. It can only occasionally be good, but for the most part, I haven't found much success with it. Breaking our number 10 spot, we have the V-Wing. This, yes, is another interceptor. Trust me, I do like them, even though these three are not particularly helpful. Now, the problem with the V-Wing is its very high fire rate but low damage output, making it incredibly difficult to destroy enemy vehicles. It can be highly effective with strafing and picking up ground kills, but against other starfighters it's not very effective. At number 9, we have the Vulture Droid, our first fighter on this list. There's nothing inherently wrong with the Vulture Droid, it's just that its attack combinations aren't as good as those of other fighters, and it really can be a lot more difficult to pick off the Republic vehicles that have far superior weaponry with this thing that can't really compete with that with its low fire rate and damage output. I struggled with deciding whether or not to put the N1 Starfighter on this list, but I decided to do so as it does technically count, despite being only found on one map. Now, this vehicle is actually very good. I would just love to see it on more maps, perhaps even in Starfighter Assault. Yeah, there's really nothing wrong with it. I mean, it has a kind of low fire rate, but the damage output is great, and it's amazing on Naboo for picking off enemies. It just needs to be on more maps, and also in the space battles. Coming in at number 7, we have the TIE Fighter, and as I said before, this includes both the First Order and Imperial TIE Fighters, as they're both exactly the same. These fighters are fine. They're kind of just like the benchmark decent vehicle. They have an okay weapon combo with missiles, speed, and a high fire rate all being combined together. But in the end, they just aren't as effective or as amazing as the vehicles they have to come up against, and for this reason, they fail in many situations. Coming in at number 6, as another of what I would consider to just be a good starfighter, we have the Republic's ARC 170. This vehicle is very good at defense, with the rear turret gunner and astromech healing droid ability combinations making it very difficult to take down. However, for offensive abilities, it's just not as good, and it struggles with eliminating the enemy fighters, which is something that this vehicle should, in theory, be very good at doing. At number 5, I've lumped together the TIE Bomber and Hyena Droid Bomber, as they both have the exact same abilities and are both just the standard fighters, but with 2 pods instead of 1. Now, these are very solid vehicles, especially on ground maps. You can easily pick off the players on the ground who are just playing as infantry, and that can be really fun, and it's also really good in Starfighter Assault against all sorts of enemy vehicles. It's just overall a really solid bomber, but unfortunately for it, the vehicles that are yet to come are even better. At number 4, we have what I would consider to be the best fighter in the game, as it should be, the X-Wing. The X-Wing is, well, it's insane. I mean, going up against the TIE Fighters that have so much weaker abilities, it's clear how good this thing is. It completely shreds the enemy team in most situations, and it's honestly amazing that the Empire and First Order can even win. If you play Battlefront 2, Starfighter Assault, or are a fan of Star Wars, you might be kind of disappointed that I'm only putting the A-Wing at number 3. I mean, it should be the best in the game, right? Well, the A-Wing is very, very good, yes. It has a very good fire rate with a pretty decent damage output, and it's incredibly fast, all of which makes it just absolutely insane. However, I find that the vehicles above it can actually be more frustrating to go up against, and while the A-Wing is very, very good, I just think that I have to leave it at number 3. Just missing out on our first place spot, but what I would still consider to be the best anti-starfighter vehicle in the game, we have the Droid Tri-Fighter. The Droid Tri-Fighter is just so good against enemy aerial vehicles. Its high fire rate is insane, the damage output is insane, and there's really nothing that you can do against a good Tri-Fighter pilot. They will kill you. There's no doubt about it at all. But in first place, and what is without a doubt in my mind the best starfighter in Battlefront 2, we have the Y-Wing. I remember loving the Y-Wing as a kid, and I'm so glad to see that it's this powerful in the game. Its regular cannon does great damage against starfighters and is excellent for strafing players on the ground. Its middle ability, which is an ion turret that stuns enemies, makes it a nightmare to kill as a starfighter, as does its healing astromech ability. And the dual proton torpedoes can take out enemy tanks, which is just so incredibly useful, turning the tides of an entire game and really making your enemies very angry.
Spaghetti, I'm the real spaghetti. Girl, you want the spaghetti? I'm just imitating, so want the real spaghetti. Please stand up, please stand up, please stand up.